Isn't it a great day to be a Christian? Thankful for your presence here this evening. Open your Bibles to 1 John chapter 1. 1 John chapter 1. For the last few Sunday evenings, we've been talking about Facebook, and you can tell what's important to somebody by what they post on their Facebook pages. So I guess the question tonight is, what's important to me? What's important to you? Let's look at 1 John chapter 1, beginning in verse 1. Let's see what was important to John. 1 John 1:1 says, "That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled of the word of life. For the life was manifested, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and show unto you that eternal life, which was with the Father, and was manifested unto us. That which we have seen and heard declare we unto you, that ye also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. And these things write we unto you, that your joy may be full." I know I've shared this illustration with you before, but it still applies to tonight's lesson about the little girl that came home from Sunday school. And she said, "Mommy, this morning my teacher said that God is bigger than we are. Is that true?" And the mom said, "Yes, darling, God is bigger than anything. He's the biggest thing in all of the universe." And she said, "Well, teacher also said God lives inside us. Is that true?" And the mom said, "Well, yes, that's true. God lives in each of us." And she said, "Well, Mommy, if God's bigger than we are and he's living inside us, won't he show through?" That's the idea. If God's living inside us, won't he show through? Because God should be the biggest thing in all of our lives. Basically, whatever is big in your life is what shows through. And that's certainly true on Facebook. I don't know how many of you are on Facebook. I know several of you are. But you can tell what's important in a person's life by what's on their Facebook page, by what they put on their news feed, what they talk about the most, what they like, what they comment on. The things that people talk about and share on Facebook are important to them. And you can look and you can tell if somebody's for a particular athletic team, or if they're for a particular political party, or if they have a family that they're particularly fond of, or if they have some things they're not particularly fond of. You can tell a lot by a person by what they post on Facebook. In fact, there have been studies done that demonstrate just that. A man named Don Klumper from Northern Illinois University did a study, and he got employers, as they were hiring new employees, to look at their Facebook pages and to see what was on the Facebook page and then make assumptions about what kind of employees that they would be. So they looked at the different things that these people had liked and shared and posted, and they made notes. And then 6 months later, they came back and interviewed them and said, okay, what kind of employees were they? And there was a direct correlation between what was on their Facebook page, what they expected to get, and what they really got, because what they posted on their social media told a lot about what they were like. They did another study, and they examined the Facebook pages of college students. And they had them take personality tests and IQ tests. And then they looked at their grade point average. And there was a higher correlation between what was on their Facebook page and their grade point average than there was between their IQ test and their grade point average, because the things that were important to them were the things that meant the most in their lives. The people that were interested in academic things had higher scores. The people that were interested in less important things had worse scores. What's important shows. That's true in social media, and it should be true in our lives. Now, like I said, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but if you are, what's important to you? What do you post? What do you share? Do you share pictures of your family, or about your sport teams, or political beliefs? What do you post on Facebook? What do you show? What are you interested in? Now, I've got some friends on Facebook that are interested in the gospel. They're interested in Jesus, and they post things about Jesus. They post pictures about Jesus. They post scriptures. They post poems and other things. that display Christian virtues. And you can tell by looking at their Facebook pages that these people must love Jesus. He's big in their lives. And since he's big, he shows through. You can see that when you look at the outside. That got me to thinking that people that love Jesus share that in their Facebook pages. So how can we best share things about the Lord on the internet? How can we use social media? We're using social media tonight. You look on YouTube, you can see this sermon hopefully by tomorrow afternoon sometime. But we're not the only ones that shared what's important to us. Let's go back to 1 John 1:1. John said, that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled of the word of life, that which we have seen and heard declare we unto you. John says, we heard these things, we saw these things, we handled these things, and that's what we're telling you about. We're sharing the things that we came in contact with. In other words, he's not playing the game. He's not doing this for show. These are the things that are important to John, and he's wanting to share those with the people that he's writing to. In fact, like all the other apostles, John suffered persecution. Now, traditionally, all the other apostles were martyred except John, but he was exiled to the Isle of Patmos because they didn't want him to continue teaching about Jesus. But John didn't have any choice. John had to tell people about Jesus. He was driven to tell people about Jesus because Jesus was big in John's life, and so he showed through. He'd heard it, he'd seen it, he touched it, and he knew from experience that it would bring those that came in contact with it joy. And verse 4 says, these things write we unto you, that your joy may be full. John says, knowing Jesus brings joy to my life. It'll bring joy to your life too, so I want to share him with you. The problem with some people is we kind of float through faith. Maybe we'll attend worship services, we'll sing songs, we'll pray prayers, and then we'll leave. But a lot of folks leave Jesus back at the building. You can't tell in their home that there's any difference than any of their neighbors. Jesus is over the church building. Now, when they come back on the next Lord's Day, they'll pick him up again and they'll sing, oh, how I love Jesus. But can you tell that in their regular life? Is he big in their lives? Is Jesus showing through? Well, John said that it brought him joy. It would give other people joy for him to share about Jesus. And so the question tonight is, how can we share about Jesus? The first thing is, in order to share about Jesus, you got to care about Jesus. If you're not interested, then you're not going to tell anybody else. If it's not something that brings joy to your life, then you telling other people won't bring joy to their life. So you need to care about Jesus and honestly care, not just be saying something so you'll look good online. So ask yourself these questions. Why does Jesus matter to me? How has knowing Jesus made a difference in my life? If it hadn't made a difference in my life, then why would I want to share it with anybody else? If it hasn't made a difference in my life, why would anybody else want to hear what I have to say about Jesus? So number one, we got to care about Jesus, how he matters in my life. And then ask yourself, what have I read in God's word that's been a blessing to me that I think might be a blessing to others? And then maybe we need to share that. We need to let them know what's important. Remember, we need to be sincere because what's in us, what we're full of, is what's going to show to those on the outside. So first of all, to be able to share Jesus, you need to care about Jesus. Secondly, to share Jesus effectively, you need to care about the people that you're sharing Jesus with. Old saying, maybe too old, nobody cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. If these people don't think you're interested in them, if they don't think you care about them, then they don't care what you have to say. So you need to care about Jesus, and then you need to care about the people that you want to share Jesus with. I couldn't find this cartoon. I looked for it. I've never seen it, but I was told that there's a cartoon on the Peanuts. Charlie Schultz wrote Peanuts, and Lucy's talking to Charlie Brown, and Lucy says, I would make a great evangelist. And Charlie Brown says, what makes you think that? And she said, I convinced the little boy that sits in front of me at school that my religion is better than his religion. And Charlie Brown said, well, how did you do that? And she said, I hit him in the head with my lunchbox. We're not going to get somebody to agree with us religiously. We're not going to convince them we love Jesus by knocking them upside the head. That's not the way to share Jesus. I know some groups on Facebook. I'm a member of some groups on Facebook that share the gospel. There's some of them that do a great job. There's some others that not so much. There's one group that posts things like this. True or false? If you're not a member of the Church of Christ, you're going to go to hell. Well, it's true. I mean, when you're saved, the Lord adds you to His church. And so if He doesn't add you to His church, then you hadn't been saved. So yes, you have to be a member of the Lord's church to avoid going to hell. But that's not the way to win friends and influence people. You don't start there. You can't just beat somebody upside the head with something and expect to influence them for the Lord. So let's go back to what John wrote in 1 John 1. Verse 3, he said, that which we have seen and heard declare we unto you, that ye also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with His Son Jesus Christ. And these things write we unto you, that your joy may be full. John wasn't writing about some theological argument. He wasn't writing about debating which religion is better. He was saying, the Lord makes us happy. We're in fellowship with Him. You'd be happier if you were in fellowship with Him. So we want you to be in fellowship with us. We want to agree on these things. We want to have you as part of us. So we need to show how much we care. I don't spend all day, every day on Facebook, but there are some things on there that I like. I tend to read more that people post if they like and comment on things that I post. I mean, because obviously those people have really good taste, and so that's the kind of people that I want to associate with. No, seriously, people that pay attention to things that I say get my attention, and that works in the rest of the world too. People that you care about, that you're interested in, that you show some interest to, are going to be more apt to listen to what you have to say. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be reaching out to other people. We need to be letting them know that what they say is important to us. That's all about Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, the same principles apply. People want to be important. People want to know that somebody's interested in them, that somebody cares about them, and letting them know that you want to share the love of Jesus with them is a great way to start a conversation. Well, how can you share the gospel on Facebook? Well, you can start off by just sharing our church bulletin. Every Sunday morning, we put the church bulletin online. There's a church, Lawrence Chapel Church of Christ Facebook page, and about 7 o'clock every Sunday, I put the bulletin on there. Last week, 9 people picked up a copy of the bulletin off that table out there. As of noon on Thursday, 345 people had seen the bulletin on Facebook. I put it on there. Somebody else shared it. Anytime you share something like that, everybody that's on your news feed sees that. And sometimes people on your news feed will share it. I've had copies of the bulletin that were shared with people that I didn't even know. But there was something I said in there about the Lord that somebody thought was important to let other people know, and so they passed it along. Already mentioned, our sermons are on YouTube, and the link to that's on the Facebook page. Share it. If there's somebody you know that needs to hear what we're talking about, share it. There's some things on there. The first one on the church Facebook page is what you need to know to be a Christian. It's very fundamental, the first lesson. And that's the first thing on our page. It's tied to the top. Start there. Share something with people that need to know about Jesus. I don't have all the answers. Just because I put it in the bulletin or preach it from the pulpit doesn't mean that's the main thing. You see things about the Lord. Maybe there's some pictures or some scriptures or a poem or something that's made a difference to you. It made you feel better. Well, share it with somebody else. Let them know how important Jesus is to you. Is He big in you? If He is, then He's going to be showing through. And let's face it, if somebody doesn't like what I posted, they can ignore it. I've even had people block me. I've had people unfriend me on Facebook because they didn't want to hear what I had to say. And you know what? Unless I look for them, I don't ever know about it. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't have to feel rejected. It gives us a way to do things without risking feeling unpopular or anything. We can do that and not make anybody mad. If they get mad, we don't have to know about it. But we need to be sharing things in real life too. If we share things in a non-threatening environment, that'll make it easier to share Jesus in the real world. To make a difference in people's lives, we got to go out in the real world and talk to real people. Apostle John wrote a lot of things about Jesus. We might say he posted a lot of things about Jesus. Now, John talked about Jesus everywhere he went, but he wrote 4 books of our New Testament. He wrote the Gospel of John. He wrote 3 letters to churches that we call 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. And then he wrote the book of Revelation. So John had a lot of posts that he made to different people, but he wouldn't have done that if he didn't love Jesus, if he wasn't serving God. If God wasn't big in his life, then he wouldn't be showing through in how John lived. How did you become a Christian? When you obeyed the gospel, it's probably because you followed somebody. Maybe it was a friend, maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a relative, but there was somebody that talked to you about Jesus. There was somebody that brought you to church or led you to the gospel somehow. Now that you're here, it's your job to take somebody else with you. Remember when Jesus talked Andrew? Andrew came to Jesus. The first thing he did was go and get his brother. When Philip was converted to the Lord, he went out and got Nathanael. The woman at the well, when she talked to Jesus, she went back and got the whole town. She got everybody that would listen. Who are you bringing? Who are you talking to? Who are you leading to Jesus? You followed somebody to Jesus. Now it's our turn to bring somebody else with us. Ultimately, it's our responsibility to share the gospel. One way is with Facebook. That's a non-threatening way. Maybe you've got a different form of social media. Maybe you've got some real live friends that need to hear about Jesus. Maybe there's somebody you know that you need to look them in the eye and say, you need to be a Christian. It's the only life worth living, the only death one would dare to die. That's our responsibility. If we're not doing that, maybe we need to change our focus. Maybe we need to realize that God needs to be bigger in our lives so he'll show through to those round about us. If you've never been a Christian, you can be tonight. If you are a Christian, you realize you need to change your focus. You need to change your priorities. If there's anything we can do to help you, won't you let us know right now as we stand together and as we sing.
Lord.